welcome all. Welcome back to the Believe in Iowa State podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Carter.
I'm your host, Cody Vancillo.
Cody, man, they can't hold those not being able to win 10 games in the season against us. The Clones got it done, baby. We won 29-21 over those Wildcats. Cody, how you feeling?
I I still feel like I'm back on the field on Saturday. I partook in the field rush that was for that historical season. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get the goalpost because the Iowa State PD and Ames PD were just all over it. They were not unfortunate. Fortunately, we didn't get that, which is a bit of a disappointment. But I don't care. I've gotten over that. I'm still feeling great about that great win for Iowa State. They punched multiple things of history. Not only is it Iowa State's first 10-win season in program history, this is the first 10-win season in the history of Matt Campbell's head coaching career.
Man, and we go back to that famous speech after the TCU game of if you love the process, eventually it will love you back. And the key thing in that speech is that you don't know when it will love you back. And it's loving us back right now, bro. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
from the start, bro, I just had a feeling we're just gonna actually really go deep into this game because there's just a lot of stuff I want to talk about key plays. But
Absolutely.
man, we talk about the first play of the game, K State's on offense. They try to run the option, and the thing is that he had Dylan Edwards had room. He would have been running for days, but it was a
Mm-hmm.
fumble, and we
Yep.
recover it. And man, starting off with
Mm-hmm.
a short field, that was a huge, huge play to start the game.
Exactly. I mean, certainly, yeah. I think that set the tone. That play right there, that first play of the game, it set the tone for what this game was going to be. And the moment that we hopped over the turnover from Kansas State, Miles purchases all over it. And go figure, for the start of senior night, why not have a senior be the one who starts the fire that eventually came down on Kansas State? Miles Purchase able to recover the fumble, sets up Iowa State in really great field position. I believe that was inside the 25 of Kansas
Right.
State.
Yeah.
And Iowa State goes down, and eventually Rocco Beck finds Jaden Higgins for a touchdown. Once again, Rocco Beck, Jaden Higgins. Jaden Higgins has been, along with Jalen Knoll, they're the best wide receiver duo that this program has ever seen, and one of the best in the country. I mean, this game you saw both Jalen Knoll and Jaden Higgins hit over 1,000 yards, and both got a touchdown this game. And from the start, a lot of the momentum was with Iowa State in that moment, and I just think that we took it and just we never lost it, even though there were times where Kansas State might have pulled it back from us. It didn't matter. Iowa State just held on to the momentum from the start, and I think that first few minutes of the game just set the tone for what Farmageddon was going to look like.
Yeah, man, definitely. And unfortunately, the next drive, K State goes back down, goes back, throws a deep, and um, Avery Johnson throws a deep bomb to Chase Brown. They're Chase Brown to tie it up. I was like, oh crap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something. Yeah, with that drive. Actually, note that we did force a punt. No, we actually forced on the first two drives of Kansas State, we forced a fumble and a 3-and-out, and then they did get that touchdown. But I think that was this is something that is to note about this game. Throughout it, Iowa State, outside of like those two big touchdown plays and like outside of a couple of big runs, Iowa State's defense did a really nice job in limiting the offensive power of DJ Giddens and Avery Johnson. I mean, you talk about holding DJ Giddens to 72 yards of rushing, and Avery Johnson was their second leading rusher with 64, but holding Kansas State to 144 rushing yards. And that was going to be one of the key things for Iowa State. If they were going to win this game, they would have had to limit the offensive firepower and the legs of both DJ Giddens and Avery Johnson. And then to their credit, they did.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was a great job by his defense. The defense came to play, and we traded 3-and-outs for about back to back drives. Then
Mm-hmm.
we after that we go down on our third possession. We go down and we drive 29 yards and kick a field goal.
Yep. And yeah, obviously Kyle Conradi for 1 yards out. We regained the lead. And then the next drive, Iowa State, once again, they forced another turnover. This time it's Tashawn James. And if that name's familiar, he was the DB who unfortunately was burnt during the Kansas game. Like he was on the coverage and he gave up a lot of like those big plays against Kansas. And in 3 weeks' time, you see the progression that Tashawn James has made from looking terrible against Kansas to now forcing a turnover. Once again in Wildcat territory, he's able to punch out the football from Keegan Johnson's hands, and it's recovered by Iowa State's Joey Peterson. So once again, the defense comes through, and they did announce this, I believe, on the broadcast. But Keegan Johnson is a former Iowa Hawkeye receiver. So how about that extra rub to the Iowa Hawkeyes?
Yeah, man, it's just in a rivalry game, it was a double whammy for him. Um, and yeah, so right after that, we go down 5 plays and 30 yards, and then Rocco finds Jalen Noel in the back of the end zone to get up 17-7.
And that touchdown catch for Jalen Noel is how he was able to break the 1,000-yard barrier for receiving yards in the season. So yeah, both guys did what they needed to do, and I mean, they have themselves this is a solid day for both of them. The numbers may not say it, but they came up huge in moments. Jaden Higgins got like one or two huge catches to move the chains. Jalen Noel obviously had a couple of good punt returns as well, and he continues to be like a very versatile playmaker, and that's what you kind of need in these rivalry games. And that touchdown from Jalen Noel put Iowa State up 17-7. After that, on the next drive, Iowa State's defense forces a turnover on downs. So that's another thing. Also, Iowa State, not only are they forcing turnovers, they also were able to stop Kansas State, turn them over on downs.
Yeah, man, that was a huge play. The stadium was going up. I was like, oh man, here is like an opportunity that we can really really take control of this game. Unfortunately, the next drive, 1 yard run for Hampton, incomplete pass, and then a sack. And after that, we punted to the 35, and unfortunately, the next drive, uh, Avery Johnson finds Chase Brown again, 65-yard touchdown, and they cut the lead to 17-14.
Yeah, I mean, on that route, not only was he able to, I think he caught Jeremiah Cooper out of position. Either he broke the tackle of Jeremiah Cooper, and then he also was able to get away from Bo Freeler, who was in position to make a play, but Jace Brown making a better play, able to get past Bo Freeler and go into the end zone, one play, 65 yards. And I mean, Kansas State again crawls within three. After that, they exchange punts, and then Iowa State late they were able to get another touch. They were able to get another touchdown. They put another thing on top, and this kind of gets started with was it? Yeah, it was.
It was a face mask penalty.
Yeah, the face mask. Was it? Oh, was it? No, I'm thinking it's a different play. But yeah, there was a face mask, and
You're talking about that
just
Abu run in the second half, is what you're
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Man, VJ Payne was not having a great day. He was not having a great day defensively with this defense. He got caught on multiple penalties, so being able to take advantage of Kansas State's miscues and just Rocco Beck running it in himself to really give momentum right back to the Iowa State Cyclones. And then on the extra point, Kyle Conradi makes the extra point and also draws a roughing the kicker penalty. So that's another penalty for Kansas State, and that was the theme for them tonight or that night where they just couldn't stop shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, and then that brings Casey had another drive, and then that brings us to the end of the goes takes us to halftime. And as you know, we took the ball to we deferred, so they start off with the ball, but we go down, drive 25 yards, punt, and and then K State just goes down and just has a methodical drive, drives it all the way down to the goal line, and yeah, Chris Tennant goes up and as always, he's been big this year, 6th-year guy. Darian Porter comes up and blocks a field goal.
And then they said it too. That was Darren Porter's fifth blocked kick of his career. And what a story for Darren Porter. I mean, he was a 6th-year guy. I think he had multiple years where he was out due to injury, and he stuck with Iowa State. Like he could have probably gone anywhere else, but he stuck with Matt Campbell. He stuck it out here in Ames, and I think all that time and patience and trusting the process, as Matt Campbell always likes to talk about, Darren Porter trusted it. And now in his senior year, he made some really big plays for Iowa State this year. Obviously, the 2 picks in the Cyhawk game, and then all those blocked kicks. I mean, especially this one right here, because if Kansas State was to have converted this kick, it would have been a 1-possession game. But this is just one of those plays where I think the momentum was firmly with Iowa State.
Mm-hmm.
You could just you see how excited the sideline was. You saw how excited Matt Campbell was, and Darren Porter, like once again, great player for Iowa State, and I'm pretty sure that he can still make a lot. He's going to be a really good piece for us in these next few weeks to see, like him in that secondary. Going to be a huge piece and a great piece on special teams. Not enough appreciation go out to Darren Porter for how he played on Senior Day.
Completely agree, man. He's going to be a key piece to this season, and maybe, hopefully, a possible conference championship and a possible playoff run. But
Mm-hmm.
let's continue in this game. I was not a fan of the play calling. I think we just did 3 straight passes, and they were all incomplete. Like, I was like, what are we doing?
I wasn't sure. I mean, this was one of those nights where I think it was Rocco Beck was off. I mean, part of it was the fact that like he just wasn't seeing good reads, but also it was very cold and the ball was probably difficult for the guys to catch. So
Yeah,
I
there were
mean,
a lot of drops in this game. I'm like, what is going on?
yeah. I just think the weather. I mean, weather plays a part into it. Obviously, these guys are experienced, but there still is that weather factor, and just the way how slippery the ball is. It's like it has to be on target. Otherwise, you don't give the receiver necessarily a chance. And Rocco Beck was lucky to not have a couple of picks in that game. So
Yeah, there were a couple of drop picks that we were very, very fortunate in this
hmm
game.
hmm yeah, and I mean that goes. But I mean those things, like even though those are hypotheticals, you can't bank on those now. And then obviously, even after that block field goal, we go 3 and out. Kansas State goes down the field. Uh, the tight ends, Garrett Oakley for Kansas State was like a spark for Avery Johnson. He couldn't find his wide receivers, but he was able to find Garrett Oakley, and Garrett Oakley got a lot of yardage for Avery Johnson. And then he eventually got the touchdown and to make it a 3-point game. And then unfortunately, Iowa State. We drove down the field. We took 4:26 off the clock, but we were not able to punch it in. We were at the Kansas State 7, just unable to punch the ball into the end zone or take any points out of it. But I did like the fact that we were being aggressive on 4th down. That was the thing in this game I saw
Yeah,
too. I did like the fact we're being aggressive on 4th and short, especially when we were inside the Kansas State 10.
right.
That's the thing. Because like worst case scenario, you don't get the conversion. What it is, so be it. It's almost like you punted the ball deep down the field and you force Kansas State to drive the length of the field. So just great idea and aggressiveness. I think that's the growth of Taylor Mauser. Really,
Mhm.
it showed in this game too. I mean, some of these calls, like obviously he still had a couple back calls, but I think he's grown to this
No,
offensive coordinator position, and I think he called a decent game. I would, if I had to grade this game, I'd give it like a B.
definitely. It's just I think you probably could have called something in that situation on 4th down. Probably like maybe like an option play or something like that. You
Yeah.
probably could have did that.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah,
even
I would
then,
agree with
getting
that.
to, I always say this: when in doubt, just give Jaden Higgins a 50-50 ball, and he's catching it or he's forcing a penalty. So I think that's what they were going for. They were going for the end zone, and they were hoping to either get the TD or draw a PI in the end zone to get a first down at the 2-yard line. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
didn't get it. So I like the idea. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. But that next drive, even after not being able to convert, this is where I think Iowa State was comfortable. This is where they truly won the game. Iowa State forcing a safety in the end zone to penalize Avery Johnson for an intentional grounding. And from that moment on, I was like, no matter what happens, Iowa State is winning this game. The safety just put Kansas State firmly in the coffin and put the final nail in it.
Cody, I honestly was dumbfounded, dude. I was like, where is he going? I don't think I've ever seen a safety like that where quarterback goes back 22 yards. That was even worse than the Will Greer one in 2018. I'm like, what is this dude doing? He just keeps going backwards and backwards and backwards, and nobody was there. I'm like, oh, safety.
Yeah,
I'm
but
like,
I think that again goes to the credit of the defense and John Haycock. They ramped up they ramped up the pressure. They brought guys. You had Jacob Ellis just running free down the middle, and then you had I think it was Tyler Onyendom come up on the right side, and then you had Joey Peterson. That was just the pressure getting through, and I mean that was our line of script. Like that was our defensive line beating their offensive line to the pressure, and if I think somebody said I don't know if I said this, but someone did mention like if you force Avery Johnson to be one dimensional, you force him into these big mistakes, you'll win the game. And that's exactly what Iowa State did. They forced Avery Johnson to make a bad throw, make a big mistake, and just that's how you beat this team. Like again, just another one of those miscues for Kansas State, and that put Iowa State in a really good position, up by 5. They eventually went down the field on the next drive. This is another long drive. This was a 14-play, 60-yard drive. Took 7 minutes off the clock. This went from 13:22 in the fourth quarter all the way to 6:16 in the fourth quarter, and we were able to get points. I really would have loved for us to get the touchdown because we were down at like the Kansas State 3.
yeah,
That was disappointing, but yeah, I'm like, hey, we managed to take off 7 minutes on the clock. I think that might have been the main thing that Mauser was probably going for because he knew that the defense was playing well and just kept getting crucial stops. So milk as much clock as you can. Don't give Kansas State a great chance to come back into this game. And we went up by 8, and I mean it just came down to the last 6 minutes or so. How are you feeling after we kicked the field goal, up by 8 with 6:16 to go?
So like it was 29-21, sitting in the stands. I was sitting next to Eric. Came down to him in the second half, sitting in the section that where we usually sit. And like I was like, all right, well, the way this defense has been playing, like we're gonna have to force Avery to throw. They can't running. Dumb running has no good. So I felt pretty good. Like I honestly, like after that safety, I felt pretty confident. But I was thought for sure that we were gonna score here. But I didn't really think anything of it. And
Mm-hmm.
then I was like, all right, let's see. Let's ride out and see what happens. And I'm not gonna lie, bro. The fact that they passed on 4th and 2 at their own 35, I was like, wow, that was interesting play calling. And at around after this turnover on downs, bro, we made our way down to our friends who were sitting at the 50-yard line. We were just waiting there basically for the last few minutes of the game, getting ready to run onto the field.
Right.
And like obviously we're gonna go and talk about this last drive for us. 7 plays, 16 yards. And at this point, I was like, all right, we're gonna get up double digits, and Conradi missed it. And then everybody was like, oh no. I was thinking, I'm like, please don't. I'm like, and somebody said something so true. I was like, they're like, we're Iowa State fans. They're like, nothing ever comes easy. I'm like, man, you ain't lying about that one.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like this season did not come easy for Iowa State. Obviously, even if you started 7-0, you still had a couple of those games where you had to you were really tested to like obviously the Cy-Hawk game you were tested. You were tested early against West Virginia, and then you were tested throughout the game against UCF. And then you dropped those 2 games to Texas Tech and Kansas, and things were looking pretty dicey for the team after that loss to Kansas with the way the team was trending. And then they were able to rattle off 2 straight against Cincinnati and then against Utah. In the Utah game, even after you kept shooting yourself in the foot, you still found a way to win. And this game, even that missed field goal, I was like, there is somewhat of it. Like, I was like, even with us missing that field goal, I'm like, okay, with the way this game was trending, Kansas State desperately needs to do something. They haven't shown they could. I trusted that defense to get one more stop because, again, we pinned them we pinned them at the 20. That was at the
Yep.
Kansas State 20. So we still were able to drive down, like we were able to put them basically in another position where they had to drive down the field. And mind you, Kansas State had no timeouts at this point. They had burnt all their timeouts before this drive. So if they wanted to get down the field, they would have to use the sidelines and be smart with what they were doing and how they were moving the ball. And once again, the Iowa State defense, they come through again. They force 4 straight incompletions. And Iowa State, history was made from there.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. That hit by Don Moore that drove Avery Johnson, I thought that was gonna be a 15-yard penalty. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's why everybody was waiting. They're like, is the penalty gonna be called? And nothing was called. I'm like,
Yeah.
because I thought
Yeah.
for sure. I'm like, oh no, that.
The thing is, that could have been a penalty, but you also have to factor in throughout the game. There were times where Kansas State were hitting our guys late out of bounds. There was also, I think, a point where Rocco took a hit, and I think the defender lowered his helmet and then just shoved I think it hit the face mask of Rocco Beck, and they didn't call that. So, I mean, if you don't call it during earlier in the game, you can't really keep it consistent and call it late.
That's very true. Yeah, because that would have been inconsistent. Yeah. But yeah, man, I just and I said it in tweets and stuff, but I really I'm really really excited for the people who either grew up Iowa State fans or even like I said, people who have been supporting this team to thick and thin since the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Hmm.
I'm really excited for those guys. Like for me, I'm sort of a baby in my fandom. I've only been a fan for 13 years. So
Hmm.
I mean, the fact that they've seen this team lose lose in the 90s in those Troy Davis years where he was the team, in the 80s where they weren't winning games really at all. Through and then you see the McCarney era, the Insight Bowl team, and then you go to the Rose era, which brought the excitement back. I mean, the emotion that Chris Williams had. I really really felt it. And I really really appreciate a lot of this fan base. I just wanted to say that because y'all deserve this. I mean, obviously the newer fans deserve this. We deserve this too, man. Finally, getting that 10th win meant a
Hmm.
lot.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was bored basically um, into the really bad Chiswick years. That
Yeah.
was that. The fact that that was my introduction into Iowa State, I I was like, wow, this was terrible. Then Paul Rose made it a little bit better, but still, it didn't feel great. And then in comes Matt Campbell, and there was something with Matt Campbell and the way he it could notice himself and the way he was building something in Ames, Iowa, that really meant a lot to the Iowa State fans. They found something, you knew Iowa State found something with Matt Campbell and just the way he is as not just a coach but as a person. You knew there was a change of culture at Iowa State, and that's exactly what Matt Campbell has done um to this football program. I mean, you talk about probably the most definitely the most successful era of Iowa State football. You talk about multiple bowl, you talk about a bowl game streak. You talk about multiple coaches of the year for Matt Campbell, 3-time coach of the year. You talk about now you're in your second appearance in the Big 12 title game in 5 years. You obviously have the New Year's Six bowl appearance, that New Year's Six bowl win, and now I think Ames is a desirable place to play. You talk about these players, these alums that are talking about how grateful they are to play under Matt Campbell. Obviously, saw Anthony Johnson Jr. He put out a tweet saying it's time for Matt Campbell to get the blank check from Jamie Pollard.
It is. It's time, bro. Iowa State. Iowa State has a very, very good reputation in the NFL.
Yep.
And A lot of those, it's mainly just because a lot of those players will do what they're told, and it's not like the fact that they just work hard. They're actually
Yeah.
talented and good. Like we saw yesterday, Kane ran back a touchdown or a kick return for a touchdown, and one of the first guys to jump on him was Brees Hall, was his college teammate, and they were in the same running back room and at ISU. So just like having that, and I know like Noel and Higgins. I'm praying one of them goes to the Cowboys, please. That they're gonna do well in the NFL. Darian Porter, he has the right type of size that NFL GMs and NFL scouts are looking for. So like,
Hmm.
I'm really really excited to see how when the Senior Bowl comes and then the NFL Combine. So like, the standards definitely being raised. But yeah, man, like it was an all time atmosphere. Like
Hmm.
people said, it was an all time sickos crowd. I should have just ran down the steps, but I jumped. I made that. I didn't realize how far that jump was. I was like, holy crap!
I was sitting on the wall because I knew like I was sitting on the wall and like just a moment like all right, I mean honestly, let me show you this video from our athletics
Okay.
for our athletics Twitter right here. This look at this, just the emotion of like all this.
Yeah, man. That is see, that's awesome, man. Like sort of party poopers. I sort of wanted to see the goalpost go down. I'm not gonna lie.
What was that?
I said they were sort of party poopers. I wanted to see the goalpost go down.
Yeah, I know. That's what I said earlier. Like, I really wanted to get the goalpost, but unfortunately, the PD they were not having
They
it.
weren't gonna
So it's a
they
shame.
weren't gonna let that happen. Like, yeah, nah, y'all ain't doing that. Um,
Yeah, but I mean, I mean, there's a whole just thread of celebrations in it. Would be a very like the different perspectives. Like, I mean, the football Twitter account like shows like the different views of everybody like that was
mhm,
there. Obviously, you're gonna like here's my view. This was like moments right before, and then obviously Sweet Caroline.
mhm.
That was great to sing. That was great to sing on the
Yes,
field,
it
and then a
was.
bunch of other Cyclone fans. Talk about the fireworks, the pregame, like the fireworks for when the team came out. I was like, okay, this is gonna be a very special night. It was just one of those nights, and then just all these Cyclones, just amazing to see. Just the different, like how different everybody like felt about this, like the range of emotions that you felt, and obviously obviously, you got some great photos. I mean, just that feeling of you were there for history. Like that's something that's gonna stick with you. Like no matter where you are, like no matter what you're gonna do the rest of your life, this being here in the stadium that night, that that's something that you just tell. Like that's forever just gonna be a part of. Like that's a story that you tell like your family when you're like at holidays. And I mean, talk about this. Like for this to be like basically the conclusion of Thanksgiving week, of feast week, to be with the Cyclone family, like that's it's a special feeling.
I mean, I'm thankful for every single each one of you. Thankful for you, Cody. That man, I've sat in your DMs. I've been like, hey, bro, let's. I was like, I like talking with you. Let's do a podcast, doing this with you.
Yeah.
Now for months. Now we're gonna go through basketball season, and eventually we will meet. I was like, daggone it. I was
Yeah,
like,
I was like, oh, dude. I when I saw you were gonna be late, I'm like, oh no. I was like,
well, it will come in due time. Like and then
yeah,
I'm making the trip down to Arlington.
yeah.
But yeah, man, and then this is just also big. We're just gonna go just and ah, continuing this conversation. Just the emotion of the people being in tears because they've just suffered through a lot of bad football and just it was absolutely amazing, man. But yeah, I mean let I guess I mean not really much happened, I guess. we can just go to the national slate because honestly,
There was real quick for Big 12. I mean, the big thing was like, we just had to like for Iowa State, we just had to be concerned. Like, our main thing was BYU and Houston. That was where all eyes were
mhm,
because at this point, um, it was Arizona State beating Arizona, so they more than locked in their spot. Baylor had beaten Kansas, Texas Tech had beaten West Virginia, and TCU had beaten Cincinnati. So BYU Houston, that was going to determine who Arizona State was going to face because I did see if
mhm.
BYU was to win, we would have faced Arizona State. If Houston would have pulled the upset, it would have been Colorado going to the Big 12 title game. And
Yep.
it did look a little scary at first for BYU, but they eventually found a way. They found a way to pull the win away, and they were able to pull a win out in Provo. So,
I was rejoicing when there was that sack fumble. I'm like, yes, yes.
and it was just ping ponging around players.
I'm sure people who were watching, the students that were watching at the bars were going nuts. We're like, yes.
Mhm.
But yeah, man. Yeah, let's share the screen for these national matchups, bro, because this was a wide. This is
Oh,
what rivalry week is
yeah.
all
Okay. I mean, we're just gonna
about.
like right now. We're just gonna look at the top 25.
Yeah. Oh
Talk
my
about no.
goodness,
Talk about Thursday. This was a big win. This was a big matchup for the Big 12 for them to have a
yeah,
chance to get like not just the conference champion, perhaps like to get maybe two teams in the playoff. They they needed or actually not even that, just to be sure the Big 12 champions just get omitted from the playoff. Memphis pulling the upset against number 17 Tulane.
man. Memphis came in with a game plan, executed it, and Tulane couldn't stop it.
Yep. Yep. And then Friday, Georgia Tech, Georgia. This was a wild game. This was
Man,
oh god. Um, I 8 overtimes.
8 overtimes,
I
man.
think this is the longest a game has gone since the 9 overtime game between Texas A&M and LSU a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, that 74-72 game.
Yeah, what
That
was that?
last
9 overtimes.
Yeah, that was 9 overtimes. But except that they usually still score touchdowns at that point. That's why the game was so high scoring.
Right. Yeah, and I think with this with clean old fashioned hate, Georgia Tech, they really had a chance to upset Georgia. Fortunately, they couldn't close it out, and I just think Georgia. I mean, I can't discredit them for coming back down 17-0 and then down 14 with 5.5 minutes ago. I can't discredit that, but I think the one thing that's gonna be taught, like I did see a headline from a newspaper that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, where it said like, yes, it's Georgia Tech, but doesn't take away from the fact that they asked the question, is this the best win of all time? I was like, respect. Yeah, this came from the Athletic, and Connor Ferguson had put it up on his Twitter. Let me I can find the tweet real fast, but yeah.
That's so disrespectful because I'm like, what about the national championships? Like, really?
Okay, yeah, yeah. I was like, wait a minute, this did not feel right. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, again, Connor Ferguson, Cycle Fanatic. Shout out to him, and shout out to the entire crew of Cycle Fanatic. They do great work covering the Iowa State Cyclones, and just, I mean, there's not enough appreciation I can have with covering them. Did he delete it? Oh, right here. This one, right here. This thing right here. So that's the headline, but this is the response. So this is actually a co-tweet from this original tweet right here from John Flatley, where it talks about this. Where obviously you had Penn State previous a couple weeks ago barely beat Minnesota on the road, and it said ESPN. I think this is like just hyper just hyper proactive or something like that, where it's like it's very like I don't think they actually said this, but this would be something that like it like. And then yeah, you see this right here. This just goes into the continued and actually Chris Williams talked about this yesterday on Williams and Bloom, where it's like, or I think it was on Two Guys, where he saw this coming in July. He saw this coming in July, where these preseason narratives are gonna play a factor into these playoff rankings. And I mean, they're showing it again. Like, I am not surprised by the way these preseason narratives play a role, and it's just that's something that has to that has to be the CFP rankings. They got to be fixed. I don't know how, but there needs to be something to fix it.
I mean, Cody, the only way that this is going to be fixed is if either us or Arizona State goes into the playoff this year and wins multiple playoff games and makes it to a semifinal. That is like the only way that they're gonna change minds, because that, I mean, sort of like us being unranked at the start of the regular season hurts you. If you're already ranked coming in and we were 10-2, then we probably would be getting talked about more. But there's so much bias, like it's disgusting, which is why us as Big 12 fans, as fan bases of people who are probably going to be in the playoff, we need to be united, like unite together as like one conference, just like the SEC does. Even though the SEC is complete mid this year, like it's just it like there's no, and the thing is there's no dominant team. Like Texas has their flaws, Georgia has their flaws, Ohio State definitely has their flaws. Like it's just BS, but we got to continue to go out there, fight, and prove that the Big 12 deserves to be up there with the Big 10 and the SEC.
Yeah, that's just the thing. That's just the message for the Big 12. Just go out and prove you belong, get a couple of wins in the playoff, and yeah. And I mean, we'll talk about the champ. Like, I'll get, we might be able to allude to the championship, Big 12 championship a little later on. But going through the rest of this week, rivalry week, you had the Egg Bowl. This was a Ole Miss did not look good in this. They did not look good in this game.
Yeah, Mississippi State is going to give it their all, and they have nothing to play for, so they're going to get their best shot.
Mm-hmm.
But man, Oklahoma State goes over in conference. I am going to say for everybody, for this to be everyone's Big 12 like preseason pick to win the conference, if them to go 0-9, this is unreal. Especially with, when you think about all the talent they had coming back. This is even worse than what Iowa State had in 2021. At least they went to a bowl game, but to go 0-9, man, there guess there's got to be something going on that we don't know about in Stillwater.
Yeah, I mean, there's people saying like it might be time for Mike Gundy to hang it up, to retire, things like that, and we don't know what's going on. So I'm not gonna try to answer that question yet until something comes out from Stillwater. But
Right.
I mean, yeah, Oklahoma State. The thing with the Big 12 preseason poll, it got flipped upside down. It got flipped on its head. You're talking about like the two teams, like two of the top teams that were projected to finish top of the league, Utah, Oklahoma State. They're the two bottom feeders in the league this year.
Mm-hmm. It was unreal to me, man. And I just listened to just the beginning of the 10-12 before we came on here, and they were talking about the same thing. It's just you couldn't have predicted. You probably could have predicted Iowa State to be in there if they got their way, which they did. And I mean, we're not gonna. We even said, even in the win totals pod, that the one we first did together, we thought Arizona. There was no way. We thought no way Arizona State was gonna be. I mean, they're 10-2. Everybody picked them to be last 3-9. I thought they were still a few years away, and I mean, Kenny Dillingham accelerated it. He's an absolutely great coach, and just the fact to get them to the title game in their first year in the conference is absolutely amazing.
They did what Utah claimed to do. Utah did all the talking, but Arizona State came in and they actually did the thing. They did the thing.
They did the thing.
Yep. And, I mean, Arizona State, Sam Levitt, Jordan Tyson, Cam Scatteraboo. What a trio.
Yeah, that's a hell of a trio, man. It's going to be interesting to definitely dive deep into this on Wednesday. On Big 12 Championship preview show.
Oh, God.
Man.
Oh, God. Wednesday, that'll be interesting. The reason I say that is once we get done with this football segment, or this like national segment, there's gonna be like we're gonna get to like the Iowa State week and preview the
Yeah, we got
entire
a
week,
huge basketball game against Marquette at home.
and
Big
that's
match.
on Wednesday. That's the
That's
one on
on
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Hmm.
We're gonna maybe we have to talk about moving the show up, maybe, or just
Yeah.
going for Thursday. But
Mm.
Thursday, I'm gonna be leaving to head down to Arlington, so I'm kind of
Yeah.
going. But we'll,
Yeah.
we'll we'll talk about it after. But yeah, and like we go to another a former Pac-12, two former Pac-12 teams. Oregon literally comes into the Big Ten and just runs the Big Ten. Goes
They wreck
12 and
shop.
12 and 0,
Mm-hmm.
beats Washington 49-21, and they're just business like this year. They're not
Mm-hmm.
flashy. They're just going get stuff done.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I mean, their uniform, like they leave the flash for the uniforms, like it's whatever. But on the field performance, yeah, they stomp you in.
Yeah, I mean, Dan Lanning has brought that type of toughness from Georgia right into Eugene, and this is the
Right.
type of team that they're going to be.
Yeah, learning that being under Kirby Smart, you learn a few things from Kirby Smart, and then you take that to Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's just an amazing job over there by Dan Lanning, and I really think Oregon. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you see them at least in the semifinals, maybe in the national championship, and maybe Oregon can finally win a national championship in football. I mean, they had their opportunity in 2010. Unfortunately, they ran into Cam Newton. It's Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that Auburn team just couldn't be stopped that year.
And then they had a chance in the first year of the 14 playoff, but they just ran into a very, very determined Zeke and Ohio State team that just ran
Yeah,
all over them.
I mean, and then the quarterback Cardale Jones, like he basically picked it up from. I don't remember the other quarterbacks. Like there were QB injuries, and then Cardale Jones comes in
Yeah,
and
JT
just
Barrett got hurt, and then
mhm.
Cardell Jones came in.
Yeah. So I mean, they ran into that. Speaking of Ohio State, what an egg they laid in the game against Michigan. You're talking as a 21-point favorite in your house, and you can't pull a win against this terrible Michigan team. What? I don't even know how do I explain. I can't even explain this game. I can't even break it down because this is so this is so appalling. Of how do you how do you piss down your leg this horrible?
I got two things for you. Will Howard in big games, not good. And Ryan Day has a Michigan problem. Man, like I don't understand. Like obviously they're still gonna make the playoff, but like I just this is embarrassing, man. You lose to this Michigan team to a guy that only had 9 completions, no touchdowns at all. This is just unacceptable. Like for real.
I mean, you talk about Ryan Day. This is his fourth straight loss to Michigan. The first three, yeah, that would make sense at least because that was a Jim Harbaugh led team. So there's that. But this Michigan team, unexcusable. And you know the Ohio State fans, the fan base, they wanted him fired after last year. Oh, they certainly want him fired after this year.
Yeah, I don't know. The thing is that he's been so good. He's 66-10. Before those losses are against Michigan, and that's the thing because you're like, is it sort of an overreaction if you fire him just on the fact of him not beating Michigan? Because then that because look because here's what I can see because if you do that and fire him based on the fact um of him not being able to beat your rival, then at that point then you're like, well, should at that point because let's say that we were like that and we wanted to fire Matt Campbell because he couldn't beat Iowa, like would we? But I guess it's also different because Ohio State, like in the last 20 years, if we look at it from a bigger thing, they have dominated Michigan in the last 20 years. But
Exactly.
if you look these last, obviously the last 4 years, like with the teams Ohio State, and they've been a top team, top two team coming into these games, and they've lost every single one. It's just absolutely appalling to me.
Exactly. And I mean, you saw the. I mean, if you saw the video, you saw the aftermath of it. You had the Michigan Ohio State guys just like after the game. Michigan obviously goes to plant the flag at the Ohio State like at the midfield logo, and then a brawl breaks out. And the brawl got so bad, you had the whatever. I think yeah, there was obviously cops for both Michigan and Ohio State. I don't know who exactly pulled it, the pepper spray out, but players got pepper spray, coaching staffs got pepper sprayed, and it was just a massive brawl at midfield.
Yeah, it was insane, bro.
Oh
I'm not gonna lie, it was fun to watch though.
yeah. Oh, this wasn't even the only brawl of rivalry week. This wasn't the only time. I mean, I saw a video on Twitter that was a 1 minute compilation of just brawls that were happening during rivalry week.
See. I love that. I'm a sicko. I love that type of stuff.
Dude,
Like
I was calling it. I was like, okay, this is the week where every NCAA player in this rivalry, everybody was crashing out. They all looked like everybody was pulling out their best George Pickens impersonation, just trying to brawl with each other. It was hilarious.
yeah, and probably you're gonna want to fight because you're tired at the end of the season. It's a long season. Like, man, we're finally gonna get this over with. Especially if you know you're not going bowling. And you're just like, oh, I want to get this over with, and you already have pent up aggression. So yeah, I see why. But
Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't see a brawl in the Texas A&M matchup, but I certainly wouldn't have been surprised.
yeah, so Texas wins that one 17-7. Not only mentioned that one, A&M couldn't get anything started offensively, but a good year for um what's the coach's name for A&M?
Sarkeesian or no, Mike Elko.
Yeah, Elko has going. Yeah, Elko has a great year going. 8-4. Obviously probably below what A&M expected, especially when you consider the way they started. It was sort of a sucky end.
Yeah,
Um,
but I mean,
yeah,
yeah, but A&M has something to build on with Mike Elko, and then Penn State put belt to ass on Maryland. There, and Penn State's going to the Big Ten title game.
yeah, man. Yeah, with Ohio State losing, Penn State makes it a title game, so that should be an interesting matchup against Oregon to see how Penn State matches up.
hmm Notre Dame taking care of business against USC, so Notre Dame is definitely a lock for the play. Like they're a lock for the playoffs.
They're alike for the playoff, but they struggled with SC. This when they go Notre Dame. I mean, besides that, they were good. So they finished season 11-1. Now they just wait for the playoff.
Yep.
And man, Miami goes down to Syracuse. We sort of saw this coming just because defensively they're not really that good at all.
hmm
And when you put it on Cam Ward to lead you to victory, like most of the time he will do it, but there are some times where the defense just has to step up. But like
Yep.
great win by Syracuse, nine to
hmm
three.
Yep. 9-3, and this knocked Miami out of the ACC championship game. So the ACC championship game will be SMU taking on Clemson. And speaking of SMU, they took care. Like they really just absolutely decimated Cal. Like Cal stood no chance. They stood no chance against SMU.
Yeah, Fernando Mendoza, their quarterback, didn't start, so yeah, they definitely had no
Yep.
chance. But man, you want to talk about belt to ass? Purdue suffers its worst loss in school history. Indiana destroys them 66-0.
That's not even a thorough destruction. That's Indiana going scorched earth like it was Civil War and Kurt Signetti was General Sherman.
And it was so, and this win was so disrespectful because Indiana was going for fake punts in this game.
Oh my god! I didn't even see this. I didn't see this game, but my god, they took losing the Ohio State. They took that personal and put it on Purdue.
And I took it. Yes. So the funny thing is that this is Purdue's. Like before this, earlier in the season, their worst loss was against Notre Dame, who beat them 66-7. And now you lose to your actual in-state, which is also a rival. But like you lose to Indiana, another public school, your main rival, and you didn't score a point against them, man. That
And
is
give up the same amount of points.
oh, man. I don't think I've ever seen a team get outscored 132-7. That is insane. Wow. And Purdue finished the season 1-11. Jeez.
Yeah, I would have been surprised. They were already in basketball season. I'm not shocked. They were already ready for basketball season.
Yeah, they've been ready for basketball since October.
No, I think they were ready for basketball season since they got their ass kicked by Notre Dame.
Yeah, they're like, all right, well, yeah, it's gonna be that type of year.
Time for basketball.
Yep, and then South Carolina also just rushing the field of rushing Clemson's field after they beat them 17-14.
Bro, the rivalry just brings out all the CTE. Everybody.
It's the CTE and the disrespect, man.
I have the clip on my Twitter. Once we get done with all these rivalry games, I need to show that clip to you. But yeah,
you gotta show it to me. Arkansas. Oh yeah. The
Iron Bowl.
Iron Bowl. And as I hate to say it, they probably are gonna make the playoff, which I'm upset.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised considering like you look at all the 3 lost teams. Alabama did beat Carolina. I don't think A&M and Alabama played each other. They did beat Ole Miss. They lost to LSU. Mizzou, they got blanked by Alabama. Yeah, this mosh pit of just 5-3 in the SEC is ugly. And I'm not surprised. I mean, the fact that Auburn forced 4 turnovers and they still couldn't beat this Alabama team. This is what happens when you don't have a competent quarterback that can get the ball to your wide receivers. My buddy who is a Vols fan, but he used to be a lifelong Auburn fan, was saying Auburn has to freeze 4 wide receivers, but they don't have a quarterback that can throw worse shit.
Yeah, Peyton Thorne is
awful. Awful. All right. Well, obviously Arizona State just stomping out Arizona. Obviously locking their spot. BYU we talked about earlier, and then Mizzou having to squeak by Arkansas. I really do not care about this Mizzou squad. This team isn't it. This Mizzou squad is not it.
Mizzou is fraudulent.
Yep. Yeah, all right. I think it's now a good time to show the video that I was talking about.
Houston and BYU.
There was a fight. Yes.
The Battle of the Cougs.
Oh, God. Florida State.
Florida State. Yeah, this is a big rivalry.
Oh, here it is. Last year. This was just CTE all over the place.
Who's gonna throw the fork?
The trident. Okay. What's funny is this was originally from College Football Next. Like they actually did this, but instead of like that, they actually did it to one shining moment. So that's what makes it even funnier. It's the original one on like College FB on X. That's the official Twitter handle. That's where I got the video from. They did it to one shining moment, and I was just dying. There was so much CTE going on in college football this week, and I am here for it. And you want to talk about college football sickos? You saw like I have to go back to Twitter, but outside the lines, it was outside the lines. Just they made the caption. I have to find the photo, but oh wait, no, this is a great edit. Abu Sama's spin move. Just Colorado stood no chance. But seriously, that's and then here's my reply. Abu Sama did the cyclone. Something about Abu Sama playing Kansas State. Yeah, there's something about Abu Sama playing Kansas State. he just activates a whole nother level. Yes, right here. Temperatures hit below freezing, and dudes in Iowa are so quick to get hypothermia just to prove how tough they are. Yeah,
Yeah, basically.
that's that's the people of Iowa in a nutshell. So, no surprise there, so that's obviously fun. Oh god, this. I mean, honestly, we could talk about college football for a while, but
we got a basketball game.
Oh yes, basketball. Not just a basketball game. Look at the day that we're playing it. So December 4th. This is going to be a huge day in college basketball because not only is it the Big 12 Big East battle, it's also the SEC ACC challenge. So, I mean, a lot of these these are a bunch of other just.
Ooh, yeah, Baylor UConn, which sort of has lost its luster a little bit.
It has. And I mean, you see the new rankings here. We can take a look at the AP poll for college basketball. The college football one came out yesterday, but we're more worried about the football playoff rankings anyway, so we don't need to spend any time on the football AP poll. But yeah, Baylor UConn, those two teams, I do not know. I can't get a good gauge on either of those. I think those two might be fraudulent.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yep, just safe to say, Dan Hurley did not have had a quote unquote relaxing vacation. I saw the video and I was dying of laughter. Just the Hawaiian music over Dan Hurley crashing out in Maui.
Crashing out, bro.
Okay. 6:15, Alabama at North Carolina.
That's going to be an interesting game. Alabama's one of the top teams in the nation. Had a great showing in their tournament. So let's see how they
yeah. And I mean, North Carolina's solid. They did run into a buzzsaw that was Auburn, and you see him if you're watching on the stream, either on Twitter on Twitter, you can see just a couple of these matchups that might stand out to you. And then you had Virginia at Florida. I mean, Florida's been solid this year.
Florida also had a good showing in that, I believe, in that Disney World tournament, and I think in Kissimmee. So they're going to be one of the top teams in the SEC this year. SEC basketball is going to be fun to watch. I will be tuned in to the SEC this year.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then we get to our matchup here, 7 p.m. local time. Marquette at Iowa State. I know some fans were concerned about the ESPN Plus thing. It doesn't say here. I would assume it is in ESPN Plus, but if it's there's somehow a way in the next 2 days that a different network, and it's a bigger network, comes out and decides to swap, to grab up this game, that would be huge.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's gonna be that's gonna be a great matchup. Just another chance for Cyclones to prove themselves and get another quad one win.
Yeah, get a top 10, get a top 5 win actually.
Right, a top 5 win at that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have KU, the number 1 team in the nation. They're going into Omaha, which is going to be a game against Creighton.
Mm-hmm.
The McDermott teams are always up for these type of games, so I should expect it to be a great atmosphere in Omaha.
Yep. And then you get to the big matchup on this Wednesday.
This is going to be possible game of the year candidate. Auburn going into Cameron Indoor at Duke. This is going to be a great game.
I mean, Auburn just ran. They basically, outside of us, they ran the table at Maui. Talk about Auburn. Iowa State was the only team. Yeah, I would expect little technical difficulties, but I mean, what I'm saying is Auburn outside of Iowa State, playing Iowa State, they ran the table in Maui. We were the team to give Auburn some fits in the first half. I think we actually overperformed in that game because I was expecting us to kind of get demolished. But to our credit, we only lost by 2. We only lost in off an offensive rebound tip last second. But yeah, Auburn proved to be I think they should be the number 1 team in the country. But I mean, I guess when Kansas is still undefeated, you can't really do much about it. So you have to see what happens. But Duke looks. I mean, they're coming off. I believe, they're coming off a loss against Kansas, so we'll have to see how they rebound from that. But that should be a fun matchup. Let me see. I think there might be some stuff on Tuesday. I'll take a look here. Nothing really comes out to me. I'm not really. seeing anything too crazy here. Just this Wednesday. I think the Wednesday is going to be the main. That's the main thing to look out for.
Yeah, man. So, let's look forward to Wednesday. Um,
Hmm.
so I will say, do you have any other college basketball thoughts or?
Yeah, alluded to it earlier. Let's take out the AP poll while we're here. This came out, I believe, about an hour ago. So we'll take a look here at the top 10. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Kansas stays firm at number one. Auburn shoots up to the number two spot. Tennessee shooting up four, and so did Kentucky. So they're in the top five, along with Marquette. And then Iowa State. I mean, I'm not surprised. We only dropped one spot, which I'm not surprised about.
I'm
Just
not
because.
surprised. I figured we would be in the same thing. I do want to. Kentucky has totally changed the thing. That Kentucky is now a veteran-led team, with the coach that was formerly at BYU. So
Mhm.
they just changed. It used to be a one and done team. Now they're just a veteran-laden team, which I
Yeah,
think will do wonders for Kentucky now.
for sure. And then right below us is Gonzaga. He drops four spots after losing in overtime to West Virginia. How about the West Virginia Mountaineers under Darian DeVries?
Man, they're gonna be tough going to West Virginia. I'm not looking forward to playing them at West Virginia.
Nope, not at all. And I know what it's like. I know what it's like watching Darian DeVries ball. Given that he did come from Drake University, and Drake University was one of the best men's basketball teams in FCS. So I got to see a lot of his style of basketball, and yeah, that's going to be a very difficult team to play against. So I'm very excited to see that matchup. Purdue shoots up five spots to number eight. Duke up two spots, number nine, and then Alabama drops one spot after losing to Oregon. But I mean, Oregon's come out the gates hot, 8-0. Wisconsin, they're 8-0. I mean, they had that slacking of Arizona in their house at Wisconsin, so they have that good win to look forward to. Obviously, you mentioned Florida. Cincinnati's holding firm, and Baylor is doing fine. Memphis holding firm at number 16. I mean, after that UConn win, and
Wow,
Houston, yeah.
Houston 4-3.
Uh,
Wow.
Something's going on in Houston. I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is. Something's going on in North Carolina too. They're 4-3.
I mean, they did run into a. I mean, they were one of the teams in Maui that ran into a buzzsaw that was Auburn, and then losing versus Michigan State, and then they had that loss against Kansas to start the year in Allen Fieldhouse. So, I
Man.
mean, those aren't too bad. Like those, I mean, losing at Allen Fieldhouse only by three isn't like that's a pretty good loss. Losing in Maui by like double digits to the eventual champion isn't the worst thing. You know, obviously don't want to lose by double digits, but still, it's not the worst. And then you lose by 3 points to Michigan State, who's been solid. So I mean, yeah, they had the drop, but I mean, the Houston one is really bad.
Yeah.
Oh wait, that wasn't even the worst of it. These aren't even the worst of it. Oklahoma is looking pretty good at 7-0. Watch out for Oklahoma. A&M holding firm. Ole Miss and San Diego State holding firm. And then you talk about that drop off from Houston. Look at this drop off right here. Holy cow.
23 spots. Wow.
Yeah. In the span of a week, UConn went from the number 2 team in the country all the way to 25.
That's what one bad week will get you, man.
Yeah. Going 0-3 in Maui will do that to you.
We'll see. Well, I mean, we're gonna see the mental fortitude of a lot of these teams. See if they can turn it around right before conference play, because some of these teams play 20 conference games. So it's gonna be interesting to see how some of these teams respond.
Yeah. Um yep, and then I guess real quick, the women's basketball side of things, I mean, this was it was a very mixed week for the ladies. Thursday they got absolutely destroyed by
They got
South Carolina.
murdered,
Yeah,
murdered.
they got held. They got held to 9 points, I believe, in the first half. Yeah, it was just not a. It was not a
Ooh,
great. this was just an ugly game for them. So I get it. Granted, you were going against South Carolina, and they were pissed. South Carolina was definitely pissed off because they had just lost to
Yeah.
UCLA the game before. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm expecting you guys to get absolutely murdered because South Carolina's going to be playing pissed off. And boy, was I right.
Jeez, that is just ugly. I am not looking forward to that UConn game because I have a feeling the same thing's gonna happen. I just
I mean, yeah, not even that. You still have the Iowa game to consider even before that. But at least the ladies split going down to Fort Myers. They did get the win over Middle Tennessee, and they got right. They bounced back. They got a win, and now they return home. So hopefully, coming back home, they'll get some confidence back before they do go to see Carver Hawkeye Arena to take on Iowa in the Cyhawk series. So I'm just hoping that this team can get some confidence back because that's the thing. When you get beat by 40 and you get held to only 9 points in the first in one half, you can lose a lot of confidence in yourself. Like you can as it like that because you don't ever want to like be in that position. But the fact that you were, you might question your build. Like that's where confidence comes into play. And I'm pretty sure these next few games should get the confidence back for the ladies. So,
for sure.
Very young season and just a lot of things that need to be fixed. But hopefully, tomorrow they'll be playing against USC Upstate, so hopefully they can get right, fix some issues, and then just yeah. I mean, to their credit, they did rebound decently in this game against Middle Tennessee. Audie Crooks with 21 points, 32 minutes. Addie Brown with 12 points and 8 rebounds. Ailey Tanky, Kenzie Hare, each getting 8 points. Emily Ryan with 6 points, 8. Alyssa Williams with 6 off the bench. Sydney Harris with 9 off the bench. And Ariana Jackson with 5 off the bench. So just, I'll see what the ladies are like. But yeah. And then obviously, we'll talk about, I think that's pretty much just what we have for this. I mean, so yeah, I don't really have anything else.
There's not really anything else. We probably just expect the Wednesday show probably to be earlier in the afternoon that day. So look out for that. And once again, thank you for all the sickos who are still listening. At this point, we had a lot of thoughts that we had to point out and wanted to do a thorough breakdown of this game. Thank you guys for listening and tuning in to the live stream for the Believe in Iowa State podcast. Cody can be found at Matt Campbell Impersonator. I'm found me, Tyler, at SciTie Guy on Twitter. And then for Believe in Iowa State for our fan pages, BLEAV, that's how you spell believe. And we can be found on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. So for Tyler Carter,
And for Cody Vancy Lolo,
this is a Believe in Iowa State podcast. Roll clones, baby.
10-2 Cyclones.
Ooh, we went an hour